Hello, it's Bernie Wall here. I'm an IELTS trainer, and I was speaking to one of my students the other day, one of my Band 7 students, and he asked me why I hadn't done any videos on this channel since 2014. And I have to say, I was absolutely flabbergasted because I hadn't realized that it was such a long time since I'd posted any videos on here. And I'm sorry about that. I've been busy doing other things, other programs, and teaching too, some of which I shall tell you all about very soon. And I hope that you'll get as excited as I am about the new things that I'm planning to launch. But I thought it would be a good idea to put some more of my IELTS tips videos. And so I'm going to start today with a video about managing your time. Now, managing time is something that students talk to me all the time about and tell me that it is for them a big problem. And that's primarily because many of my students, and I'm sure like you, are working and they don't have an awful lot of time to practice. Now, if you're taking the IELTS exam, then you have to practice. You can't do this without practicing. So it's really vital that you find some time to do this preparation work. And so what I want to share with you today is a way that you can spend just 30 minutes a day and still get a lot of very useful IELTS practice. So if you can set aside 30 minutes a day, or at a minimum 30 minutes, maybe 3 or 4 times a week, then you should still be able to do some very valuable practice. And I want to share with you how you can do that for each of the parts of the test and see that you're making progress towards your Band 7 and 8. So let's start out with the listening. So the average listening test is 30 to 40 minutes. So with a little bit of a stretch, you should be able to do a whole listening test. And that's something that I believe you should try to do at least once a week. Now, that includes the recording of your answers. And I want to say a quick word about that. Recording your answers after the listening onto the listening test sheet is part of the test. And you would be amazed how many students make mistakes in that part of the test. And it is a pity not to be focused and attentive during those 10 minutes, because if you've got the answer right, but then you record it wrongly, you will lose that answer. So make sure that you include that copying of your answers. It doesn't have to be on an official sheet. It could be just on another piece of paper. But I would advise you to include that. Now, if you're not at your desk or in your home and you think, I can't do the listening, then you can actually do the listening on the go. So if you have some kind of device, any kind of device, you should be able to access a news bulletin, a podcast, or something in the listening area that you've downloaded previously. So don't let being on the go stop you. Put something into your car stereo system, or if you're on a bus, have a pair of headphones and use your mobile phone. So there is no excuse with listening. You can do this anywhere, anytime. Okay, let's look at reading. Now, a 30-minute reading exercise once or twice a week, depending on how good your reading skills are. So I would suggest you pick one reading passage. Doesn't matter whether it's 1, 2, or 3. If you find that passage 3 is the one that you fall down on, you lose most of the marks, then I would suggest you choose passage 3. And also select a reading which contains the question types that you sometimes find difficult. So this might be yes, no, not given. It might be matching. It might be summaries. But seek a listening passage that has this kind of this kind of question in it, so that you are practicing the questions that you need to improve. The way to get a Band 7 or 8 in reading, is to be good at all types of question. So the more you practice the questions that you find challenging, the better you should become at those types. So one reading passage will easily fit into your 30-minute slot. You can also choose your reading according to topic. So when I'm doing reading, for example, if I have a reading about astronomy, for example, I find that quite hard because a lot of the vocabulary is not really known to me. So pick a topic that you find challenging, a topic that's not connected with your work or your area of study, and try that one so that you're constantly being put in front of the vocabulary from all of these different and various topics. And I've done many, many listenings in my IELTS training career, and I can tell you that a lot of the vocabulary, it does come back if that topic comes back. So the topic-specific vocabulary is really worth practicing. So there are two things you can do with your reading, and each of those will fit into a 30-minute slot. Okay, so we've done our listening, we've done our reading, now we're on the next day, and we need to do some speaking practice. Now, speaking is something that you can practice on the go if you have a recording device. And one of the best things you can do for your speaking is to do the part 2 practice. In my experience, and I was an examiner myself, that is the bit where many students fall down. And it's purely because they don't practice. So pick a topic, record it, 2 minutes, around 2 minutes, then listen to your recording and be very critical. Think about the vocabulary you used, the structures you used. How can you improve it? Can you add some different words? Can you add some different tenses? Can you put in a few idioms or phrasal verbs? Think about how you can improve it. When you've decided how to improve it, re-record exactly the same topic again and go through that process again. How can you improve it further? And then record it for a 3rd time. And even if you have time, a 4th time. And you'll find that the difference between the first time that you record it and the final time you record it is very different. And it should be more fluent, it should have better vocabulary, better structure, and better control. And if you do this regularly, you'll soon find that your part 2 will come to you automatically as soon as you see the topic. Now, another thing you can do in your 30 minutes on speaking is just to go onto YouTube and look at some examples. There are lots and lots of examples of speaking tests. Look at the examples. Pick, if you're looking for 7 and 8, no point in looking at 5 and 6. Go for the really high bands and listen attentively. Listen to the kind of language they use. Listen to the kind of sentence structure. How do they go through the topics? How do they join them? What kind of examples do they give? And really be analytical. And then write down some of those phrases and vocabulary. And the next time you practice, try and introduce them into your own part 2. Okay, so now we've got a good way of practicing the speaking in 30 minutes. And finally, we have to address the writing. And there are many things you can do with writing. A task 1 should take you typically in the exam about 20 minutes. So you can easily prepare a task 1 in 30 minutes. And this should include your planning phase as well as your checking phase. So try and write a task 1 in that 30 minutes. And if you're lucky enough to have somebody who can check it for you, then you can hand it to them to have it checked. If not, then try very carefully in your checking phase to go through it with a fine-tooth comb so you can see if there are any obvious mistakes. But I would urge you with writing to try and get it checked because it's almost impossible to do it at band 7 and above without some help from somebody who can see what kind of mistakes there might be in your text. Another thing you can do for writing is to take a model and go through it. So look for models that are at band 9 or teacher written models, and go through it again with a lot of focus, looking at what is the good vocabulary, why did this get such a high score, what's the sentence structures, what are the linking words that are used, how are the different aspects of the topic introduced, how are they given evidence, how are they given an example. And then write down some of those words and phrases and linking words that you think you want to use to get your writing to band 7. And the next time you do a piece of writing, then you can use these things, try them out. If you've got somebody to check it, then you'll be able to see if you've used them correctly. But going through models is a really helpful way of improving your writing. But it's not enough just to look at them. You do have to try and use them. That's the only way you can make sure that you're going to use them correctly. Task 2, 40 minutes is all you've got for task 2. So in a 30-minute practice slot, then you could practice just your introduction conclusion. You could spend time on your planning, looking at the question, writing out a good plan, so that when you've got another 30 minutes, you can use that second 30-minute slot to actually write your essay. So there are lots of things there that I believe you can do in a 30-minute slot. And if you do something every day like this, you'll find that all of your skills will continue to improve. And you can take a day off. I'm learning to play the piano and I try and do 45 minutes a day, but then I have a day off on a Friday. And I feel if I've really done my practice that I deserve that day off. So here you are, 30 minutes a day. There's a lot you can do. Even if you're not at a desk or in your house or in your office, even if you're on a bus or in a car or walking down the street, there are 1 or 2 things that you can still do. So as a minimum, I would urge you to try and set aside 30 minutes almost every day, go through each of these skills, doing the things I've suggested. And then when you've got more time, then you can spend a little bit more time on other aspects like the grammar or the vocabulary, or perhaps doing a whole reading test or a whole writing test. But I hope that's given you some ideas about how to manage your time with very short 30-minute slots every day. And I'll see you next time when I'm going to talk about how you can use your time to complete all the readings. So how you can improve your speed so that you can complete the readings more quickly and more accurately. If you want to get these emails regularly, then just hit the subscribe button below or sign up to my website, IELTSlearningtips.com. And I'll see you next time.